Hi, my name is David, and this is Food Origins. Now, I want you to picture something for me. It is a warm summer evening, and you are sitting at a weathered wooden picnic table right on the edge of the Chesapeake Bay. In front of you is a mountain of steamed blue crabs, bright orange, piled high, and absolutely buried under a thick, rust-red dusting of a seasoning so famous that people have it tattooed on their bodies. You crack one open, you dip the sweet white meat, and you think to yourself, this is Maryland. This is the taste of this place. And you would be right. But here is the thing that almost nobody realizes. That seasoning, that impossibly Maryland thing coating your fingers right now, was invented by a German Jewish refugee who fled the Nazis and landed in Baltimore with almost nothing but a knack for grinding spices. And that is just the beginning. Because Maryland, this little state tucked between the mountains and the sea, has quietly invented some of the most beloved, most bizarre, and most flat-out delicious foods in America. And I am not talking about crab cakes. Everybody knows crab cakes. I am talking about the 11 foods you had absolutely no idea were born right here. So grab a seat at that picnic table, because number 1 is going to surprise you, and number 11 is so strange that half of you are going to think I made it up. Let us get into it. Number 1, Old Bay seasoning. Let us start with the big one, the seasoning I just teased, because its story is genuinely one of the great immigrant tales in American food. The year is 1938. A man named Gustav Brunn arrives in Baltimore. He is a German Jew, and he has just escaped the horror of Nazi Germany. In fact, the story goes that he had been briefly held in the Buchenwald concentration camp, and he got out and got his family to America carrying almost nothing except one precious, essential thing: a spice grinder. That was his trade back in Germany. He knew spices. So he sets up shop right across from the bustling Baltimore fish market, and he starts paying attention. He notices that the locals are buying up crabs by the bushel, and he realizes they need something to season them with while they steam. So he starts blending. And blending. Celery salt, red pepper, black pepper, paprika, and a whole cabinet full of other spices, 18 in total by most counts, all ground together into this warm, briny, slightly spicy powder. He named it Old Bay, after the old Chesapeake Bay steamship line that used to carry passengers up and down the coast. Now here's the part that stings a little. For decades, the giant spice company McCormick, also based in Baltimore, sold their own competing crab seasoning right alongside Brunn's. And eventually, in 1990, McCormick simply bought the Old Bay brand outright. But make no mistake, the recipe, the magic, the thing that turned a refugee's spice grinder into a cultural icon, that came from Gustav Brunn. Today, Marylanders put Old Bay on absolutely everything. Crabs, obviously, but also chips, popcorn, chicken wings, corn on the cob, Bloody Marys, and, I am not kidding, ice cream. It is not just a seasoning in Maryland, it is an identity. And it started with one man and a spice grinder he refused to leave behind. Number 2, burger cookies. Now let us talk about a cookie that looks, frankly, ridiculous, and that Baltimoreans would defend with their lives. If you have never seen a burger cookie, imagine a soft, cakey, almost shortbread-like vanilla cookie base, quite small, quite plain. And then imagine that somebody took that modest little cookie and slathered the entire top of it with a slab of thick, fudgy chocolate icing, so generous, so absurdly deep, that the icing is easily twice as tall as the cookie itself. It is a chocolate delivery system that happens to have a cookie for a handle. The story goes back to 1835, when a German immigrant family named Berger brought the recipe over from Germany and set up a bakery in East Baltimore. The cookie they made was inspired by the black and white cookies of Northern Europe, but the Baltimore version leaned hard, and I mean hard, into the chocolate. Over the generations, the business changed hands, but the recipe stayed sacred, and today they are made by DeBoffrey bakeries and sold in supermarkets all across Maryland. Here is what I love about the burger cookie. It is completely regional. You basically cannot get a real one outside of Maryland. People who move away have them shipped in boxes. People who visit smuggle them home in their luggage. It is a humble little supermarket cookie that became a symbol of an entire city, purely because somebody in 1835 decided that the correct amount of fudge icing was, and I quote, Way too much. Number 3. The Smith Island Cake. This one is not just a Maryland food. It is the official state dessert of Maryland, and the story behind it is beautiful and a little bit sad. Out in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, there is a tiny, remote island called Smith Island. It is one of the last inhabited offshore islands in the bay, home to a small community of watermen who have made their living crabbing and oystering for centuries. And it is slowly, literally, sinking into the sea as the water rises and the land erodes. Now, back in the day, the wives of these watermen would send their husbands off on the autumn oyster harvest, long trips out on the water, with a cake. But a normal frosted cake would not survive the journey. So the island women developed a different kind of cake. Instead of 2 or 3 thick layers, they baked 8, 10, sometimes as many as 12 or 14 impossibly thin layers of yellow cake, and between every single one of those layers, they spread a thin coat of cooked fudge icing, rather than buttercream. The cooked fudge did not spoil the way buttercream would, so the cake could last for days out on the boat. When you cut into a Smith Island cake, you see this gorgeous, striped cross-section, layer after layer after layer, like the rings of a tree. In 2008, the Maryland legislature made it the official state dessert, and there is something genuinely moving about that. The signature dessert of an entire state is a cake invented by isolated island women so that the men they loved would have something sweet to eat while they worked out on the freezing bay. And that island, the place that gave Maryland its state cake, may not even be above water in another century.
Number 4. Chicken Maryland. Now this one is going to blow your mind a little bit, because Chicken Maryland is not just an American dish. It is a global one, and most people who eat it around the world have absolutely no idea it is named after this one specific state. Chicken Maryland, in its original form, is chicken that has been floured and pan-fried, and then, crucially, served with a rich, creamy white gravy poured over the top. This is not the same as deep-fried southern fried chicken. This is a distinct, older technique that developed on the plantations and in the kitchens of Maryland, and it became so famous, so associated with elegance and Americana, that it spread across the entire world. And here is the wild part. It was on the menu of the Titanic. First-class passengers on the Titanic, on that final fateful voyage in 1912, could order Chicken Maryland. It appears on surviving first-class menus. It was considered a sophisticated, fashionable dish. It got adopted into classic French haute cuisine, where the great chef Auguste Escoffier codified a version of it. And it traveled all the way to Australia and Britain, where to this day, Chicken Maryland is a pub and restaurant staple, often served in a delightfully strange twist, with a fried banana and bacon on the side. So there are people in Melbourne and Manchester right now tucking into Chicken Maryland with a fried banana, having no clue that they are eating a dish born on the farms of the Chesapeake. A dish so glamorous it was served to millionaires on the deck of the most famous ship in history. Number 5. Pit beef. Alright, let us get smoky. Everybody knows about Texas brisket. Everybody knows about Carolina pulled pork, Kansas City ribs, Memphis. These are the famous American barbecue kingdoms. But Baltimore has its own barbecue tradition that almost nobody outside the region has heard of, and it is a genuine hidden gem. It is called pit beef, and it is gloriously simple. You take a big top round of beef, you rub it with seasoning, and then you cook it hot and fast over an open charcoal pit. Not low and slow like Texas brisket. This is the opposite philosophy. You want a fierce char on the outside, while the inside stays rare, pink, and juicy. Then you slice it paper thin against the grain. You pile it high on a soft Kaiser roll, and you top it with raw white onion and a fierce horseradish sauce they call tiger sauce. No fancy smoke rings, no 18-hour cook times, no sweet sticky sauce. Just beef, fire, char, and a horseradish kick that clears your sinuses. Pit beef stands line the roads of Baltimore, often just a shack with a smoking pit out front, and locals will argue passionately about which one is the best. It is working class, unpretentious, unbelievably delicious barbecue, and it is entirely Maryland's own. The fact that it never got famous the way brisket did is honestly one of the great injustices in American food. Number 6. Thrasher's French fries. If you have ever walked a boardwalk in Ocean City, Maryland on a hot summer night, then you already know this smell, even if you do not know the name. It is the smell of Thrashers. In 1929, a man named J.T. Thrasher opened a little stand on the Ocean City boardwalk, selling one thing and one thing only: French fries. And not just any fries. Big buckets of fresh-cut fries, fried in peanut oil. And here is the sacred, non-negotiable rule that Marylanders will die on a hill defending: no ketchup. Thrashers does not serve ketchup. They never have. You get your fries in a tall paper bucket, and your only seasoning option is apple cider vinegar and salt. You douse them, you shake the bucket, and you eat them steaming hot as you walk along the boards with the ocean crashing beside you. For nearly a century, 3 generations of boardwalk goers have made this exact pilgrimage. The vinegar-soaked, ketchup-free Thrasher's Fry is not just a snack, it is a summer ritual, a taste of childhood, the flavor of the Maryland shore itself. And every single summer, tourists who reach for the ketchup out of habit get gently, firmly reminded: this is Ocean City. We do not do that here. Number 7, the Baltimore Snowball. Now please, do not confuse this with a snow cone. If you say snow cone to a Baltimorean, they will correct you, and they will do it with feeling. A snow cone uses crushed, crunchy ice. A Baltimore snowball is something else entirely. It is made from ice that has been shaved so impossibly fine that it comes out fluffy and soft, like actual snow, almost like a frozen powder. You pack it into a cup, you drown it in flavored syrup, and then, if you were doing it the true Baltimore way, you get a scoop of marshmallow topping, this gooey, sticky, sweet marshmallow cream spread right over the top. The result is this soft, cold, sweet, melt-in-your-mouth treat that is worlds away from a crunchy gas station snow cone. The tradition goes all the way back to the 1800s, when ice was shipped down from the frozen north, and Baltimore families would shave it and flavor it as an affordable summer treat during the brutal, humid Chesapeake summers. The signature flavor, the one that is most classically Baltimore, is called egg custard, a rich, vanilla-y flavor that tastes a bit like the inside of a custard donut. Little neighborhood snowball stands pop up every summer, often just a window in the side of somebody's garage. And for generations of Baltimore kids, the sound of the ice shaver whirring on a hot July afternoon is the sound of pure joy. Number 8, National Bohemian Beer. Meet Natty Bo. If you spend any time in Baltimore, you will see him everywhere. A cheerful, mustachioed cartoon man with a single winking eye, grinning down from billboards, bar signs, t-shirts, and the top of a giant sign overlooking the whole city. He is the mascot of National Bohemian Beer, affectionately known as Natty Bo, and he is basically the unofficial patron saint of Baltimore. National Bohemian was first brewed in Baltimore way back in 1885. It was the beer of the working man, the beer you drank at an Orioles game or an Colts game, the cheap, reliable, everyday lager that fueled the city's docks and factories and rowhouse stoops for over a century. It was marketed as the beer of the Chesapeake Bay, and that one-eyed mascot became so beloved that he transcended the beer itself. Here is the bittersweet twist, though. The beer is not actually brewed in Baltimore anymore. The original brewery closed, and production moved elsewhere years ago, but it does not matter to Baltimore. Natty Bo the character has completely escaped the beer. His winking face is a symbol of the city now, plastered on merchandise, tattooed on arms, woven into the identity of the place. He is proof that sometimes a mascot can become more important, more permanent, and more loved than the product he was invented to sell. Number 9, Beaten Biscuits. This one is a proper piece of history, a food that takes you right back to the colonial era of the Chesapeake. Before baking soda and baking powder existed, if you wanted a biscuit to be light and to have any kind of texture, you had exactly one option: physical violence. Beaten biscuits are made from a very stiff, very dry dough of just flour, lard, water, and salt, with no leavening agent whatsoever. To get air into that dough, you had to beat it. And I mean literally beat it, with a mallet, an axe handle, a hammer, whatever heavy object was around, for half an hour, sometimes longer. Folding and pounding, until the dough blistered and tiny air pockets formed throughout. The result is a small, hard, pale, dense biscuit, more like a cracker than a fluffy southern biscuit.
with a distinctive little docked pattern of fork holes on top. In Old Maryland, particularly on the plantations of the Eastern Shore, the rhythmic thwack of biscuit beating was one of the sounds of the pre-dawn kitchen. They were traditionally served split open, with a thin slice of Maryland country ham tucked inside, and they were a fixture of Southern Maryland hospitality for generations. Today they are genuinely endangered. Almost nobody has the time or the arm strength to beat biscuit dough for half an hour anymore.
A handful of old-timers and specialty bakeries keep the tradition alive, but the beaten biscuit is a living fossil, a delicious relic of a time before chemistry did the work that human muscle used to do. Number 10. The coddy. Here is one that has almost completely vanished, which makes me a little sad, because in its heyday, the coddy was everywhere in Baltimore. A coddy, sometimes spelled C-O-D-D-I-E, is a humble little fried cake made from salt cod and mashed potato, bound together, breaded, and fried up golden. So far, so much like a fish cake. But the way you eat a coddy is the truly Baltimore part, and it is beautifully specific. You take the fried coddy and you sandwich it between two saltine crackers, just two plain saltines, and then you smear a big stripe of yellow mustard on it. That is the whole thing. Coddy, two saltines, yellow mustard. For the first half of the 20th century, coddies were a nickel snack sold at pharmacies, corner stores, and lunch counters all over Baltimore, especially popular in the city's large Jewish community, where a cheap fish patty was an affordable bit of protein. They were the ultimate working-class street food. Cheap, filling, salty, satisfying. But as tastes changed and cheap salt cod became less common, the coddy faded. Today, you have to hunt for one. A few old delis and markets still make them, and when a Baltimorean of a certain age bites into a real coddy on two saltines with mustard, you can watch the memories flood back across their face. It is the taste of a whole vanished era of the city. Number 11. And here it is, the strange one I promised, the one some of you are going to swear I invented. The lemon and peppermint stick. I mean the actual traditional Maryland treat where you use a peppermint stick as a straw to drink a lemon. Let me explain, because it is real and it is wonderful. This tradition is strongly associated with Baltimore and the surrounding region, and it is especially tied to a spring festival called the Flower Mart, which has been held in Baltimore since 1911. Here is how it works. You take a whole fresh lemon, you roll it and squeeze it firmly against a table to soften it and get the juices moving inside. You cut off the top, and then you jam a soft, porous stick of peppermint candy straight down into the middle of the fruit. And then, and this is the magic, you use that peppermint stick as a straw. As you suck, the tart lemon juice is drawn up through the porous candy, and along the way it dissolves a little of the peppermint. So what reaches your mouth is this astonishing combination of sour lemon and cool sweet mint all at once. The candy slowly softens and sweetens the sourness as you go. It sounds bizarre. It is bizarre. And it is also completely, unexpectedly delicious and utterly, unmistakably Baltimore. For over 100 years, generations of Marylanders have wandered around the Flower Mart in the spring sunshine, sucking lemon juice through a peppermint stick, and it is one of those perfect little regional traditions that makes absolutely no sense until you try it, and then it makes all the sense in the world. Which is honestly the perfect note to end on, because that lemon and peppermint stick is Maryland in a nutshell. Strange, historic, stubbornly regional, and secretly brilliant. So there you have it, 11 foods you had no idea were invented in Maryland. A refugee's spice blend that became a state's whole identity. A cookie that is more icing than cookie. A cake invented by the wives of watermen on a sinking island. A fried chicken dish glamorous enough for the Titanic. A smoky barbecue tradition that deserves to be as famous as brisket. Ketchup-free boardwalk fries. A snowball that is nothing like a snow cone. A one-eyed beer mascot who outlived his own beer. Biscuits you have to beat with a hammer. A fish cake sandwiched between two crackers. And a lemon you drink through a peppermint straw. Maryland is not just crab cakes. It is one of the most quietly inventive, gloriously weird, and deeply delicious food states in the whole country, and most of America has no idea. If you enjoyed this journey through the old line state, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because we go somewhere new, and dig up a whole new set of surprising food origins every single week, and you do not want to miss where we are headed next. And I genuinely want to know, down in the comments, which one of these 11 surprised you the most? Was it the Titanic connection with Chicken Maryland? Was it the Coddy? I have a feeling for a lot of you, it is going to be that lemon and peppermint stick. Tell me down below. I read every single comment. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.